All right, hi, welcome to the Fantasy Six Pack Network. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. Going to be covering the Denver Broncos today with Parker Gabriel. What's going on, man? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, you bet. Not a lot, just in the slug of training camp. So building out the anything you think you know about the team you cover. So it's been fun. They went 6 straight days, and now they're into sort of more the preseason schedule. So yeah, it's a busy time of year, but it's a time of year where you learn a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get to this, but we learned quite a bit from you last year. It was pretty awesome. You made quite the call on a player who we will mention later. But before we jump into this, though, just want to remind everybody, hit that subscribe button, that like button, leave those comments. We love to hear from you. And jump over to fantasy6pack.net. Become an all-access member. You're going to get access to the award-winning rankings, our draft cheat sheet, player projections. We've got during the season betting and DFS tools. So it is a great thing over there. Use F6P pods to save 15%. And Parker, let's just jump right into things here. Bo Nix, a little bit of an older prospect coming out of college, but had a great rookie season. A little bit kind of surprised people to
Yeah.
be perfectly honest. I don't think anybody expected him to be quite that good. Have we already seen his ceiling though, or is there still room to grow? Have you seen growth from him in year 2 of Sean Payton's offense?
Yeah, I think there is room for growth. I mean, you do wonder a little bit about the ceiling just because he had so much experience coming out. Obviously, he played, more. Jaden Daniels played a lot in college too, but he's quite a bit younger. So you're looking at, a really impressive rookie year, and then saying where does he go from here? Well, Sean Payton said recently, told a couple national folks that he thinks he'll be a top 4 or 5 quarterback in the next 2 years. So whether he's that or whether he's something, maybe not even approaching that, but if he's a top 10 quarterback in the next 2 years, I mean, that's still a considerable step up from I think where he's at now, where he would tell you he was at sort of through his rookie year. And so, yeah, I mean, the offense finished 10th in scoring. He generated 34 touchdowns. Like it was impressive. It really was. I mean, I think he exceeded
Mm-hmm.
almost everybody's expectations except for probably his and Sean Payton's. So I think there's room for upside. How much? I mean, a lot of that is just up to Bo Nix. I think the thing he has going for him, Joe, is that in some ways, like there's physical to that, right? Like there's teams are going to try to make him push the ball outside the numbers, down the field, all of that. But I think the promising part about playing with Sean Payton is a lot of it is can you go from knowing the offense to mastering the offense to doing the sort of like, Drew Brees, like you spirit the whole thing all at once. And so I'm not saying he'll ever necessarily get to the Drew Brees point of mastery, but if these guys operate together for a long time, there's going to be improvement just in that sense of like how hard, Bo Nix works, how much time they spend together, and that sort of mastery of the system. Sean Payton's pretty good at unlocking things for quarterbacks over the course of time. So does that mean he's going to be Joe Burrow someday? Not necessarily, but I think that there is still some room for growth there.
And that's good to hear. He's kind of one of those like back end QB ones in fantasy that's getting drafted, and I think people are just it feels like it's kind of a safe floor pick with him. Like,
Yeah.
but I guess if there's some room to grow, then hey, maybe people are going to really benefiting from that. Let's jump over here to the running back room, and they brought in a couple different guys here. So RJ Harvey is the rookie, and then they went and signed JK Dobbins. Do you see Dobbins becoming the RB1 in this backfield at the end of camp, or is it going to be more Dobbins, or is this just a pure split at this point?
Yeah, I think probably unfortunately for fantasy players, I mean, it feels like a split at this point. Now, whether that lasts the whole year, like if you were betting on someone for the whole year, I think they have big plans for RJ Harvey, the rookie out of Central Florida, and I think that he'll be heavily involved from the start. Now, obviously, you have to assume good health in these conversations at this time of year, but I just think like Dobbins feels like a guy who they want to lean on early in the season because he's a veteran. He's played a lot in the
Mm-hmm.
NFL. He's more advanced in pass protection, which is important for any offense. And Sean Payton puts a high level of priority on your ability to protect the quarterback. So he's pretty. I mean, he's far ahead of all their running backs, but especially RJ Harvey in that department. And so like you could see Dobbins being the first guy out of the chute early in the season. But at some point, like given his injury history, you also want to protect him so that hopefully you're getting to deploy him down the stretch in a playoff run or whatever. And so like to me, like I think Harvey will be central to the game plan throughout the year. But I do think like as long as JK Dobbins is healthy, like they're both going to get pretty substantial work. And the thing about Harvey, like he didn't catch a ton of passes at UCF, but he's got really good hands. I mean, they talked about that when they drafted him. Sean Payton and George Payton loved his ability to catch the football, even though he wasn't asked to do it in college. And we see it every day in training camp. He's got soft hands, natural hands. Sean loves throwing the ball to the running back out of the backfield, as you know. And so both of those guys to me are will be, you know, big parts of the running game. And I also think they'll both be targeted quite a bit, especially Harvey in the passing game.
Oh, that's good to hear. So more about this passing game. Courtland Sutton signing the contract extension, clear-cut alpha in the receiving room. Who's the number 2? We've got a lot of guys just shuffling around, it feels like. So who's standing out as the number 2?
Yeah, I think if you ask me this in 2 weeks, I might have a better idea just from a couple of preseason games. I mean, honestly, like I don't really think they're going to show their cards much on this, not because it's a big secret. I mean, we all know who the contenders are, but just I think it might shift a little bit over the course of the year. Marvin Mims like feels like the safest bet because he finished the season so strong last year. I mean, he sort of single-handedly, along with Bo Nix, got them back in that game at Cincinnati week 17. Caught, you know, went up and made a 4th down catch in the end zone to tie that game to get it to overtime. Like, and I think Sean Payton finally kind of like figured out how to use him and what he could do, and he continues to expand his game too and all of that. So like safest bet, probably Marvin Mims, especially because he's going to make big plays over the course of the year. But the guy who I mean, if you just said, hey, who are the most impressive, who's impressed you most in camp so far? I mean, to me, like Troy Franklin's near the top of the list. He's really played well. He was lost at this time last year. And that's like not fully unexpected for any rookie wide receiver, especially playing in an offense like Oregon's where he's, you know, he's like almost on the sideline, you know, he's playing so wide. And now with Sean, you know, he's being asked to run the whole route tree. He's playing inside and outside. That there's just a lot to learn. So put on a little bit of weight. He looks really good. He's caught the ball really well, which he didn't track the deep ball sort of strangely very well last year. He's had a really good camp. He's catching the ball in traffic. He's getting open. So, you know, he's a contender. And then you've got Devon Vele and Pat Bryant in that room as well. So they've got a lot of options behind Courtland Sutton at receiver. Not all of them are probably going to get to play a lot. But to me, like, even though Mims and Franklin have some overlap in terms of the guys that can really like take the top off of defense and threaten the back end of defenses, like those are the 2 guys in camp so far that you're looking at and saying like, yeah, I mean, this guy could have this sort of breakout type season.
Yeah. What do you think about Pat Bryant? You mentioned his name. I know the famous quote around Twitter for a while was, you know, Sean Payton compared him to Michael Thomas. So everybody's like, oh boy. And we got excited for a minute. And then we're like, well, wait a minute. Maybe we should hold off on this. Like, what is there anything to that?
Well, I mean, he sort of plays the same position, right? And like that in this offense, that is sort of the like Courtland's spot. You know, Sean Payton, when Sean first got to Denver, he compared Courtland to Mike Thomas, and not as players necessarily, but in terms of like Courtland's going to play that spot. And so and then, you know, Sutton, I mean, he had even on a team that, Bo Nix finished the year with less than 4,000 passing yards, but even still, like Sutton had 135 targets. So like that's a position, you know, that Sean knows how to deploy, that he loves deploying. And so, yeah, I mean, I think maybe depending on how the questions go here, we'll talk about Pat Bryant a little bit more later, but they like him. And he's not a burner. We run like 4.63 at the combine, I think, but he's one of those guys that kind of has a knack for getting open and the ball seems to find him.
Faster on the field than he is on a 100-yard dash.
Yeah, he's one of those guys.
So they brought in Evan Engram. There's talk of him running that Joker role that Taysom Hill, you know, made so famous. Is that something you're seeing being successful, seeing him run a lot? I've also heard RJ Harvey's gotten mixed into that role here and there. I don't know if I'm going to buy into that one as much, but you tell me.
Yeah, the Joker, Sean finally sort of like pinned down the definition of the Joker the other day. And basically, like the way Sean, I mean, Taysom Hill was sort of a unique, that's a
Yeah.
unique skill set, but like the Joker, and Sean uses this sort of as like a tag for a running back or a receiver who's just a matchup problem in the passing game, like a tight end or a running back that has rare receiving skills. So wide receivers don't count. Um, but tight ends and running backs do. And Peyton's had a lot of them over his career, right? You're
Hmm.
talking about Reggie Bush, Alvin Kamara, Darren Sproles in the running back camp. Obviously, like Jeremy Shockey, Jimmy Graham, maybe Jimmy Graham, like
Right.
most famously, almost him and Kamara as tight ends. So, like, he always uses Detroit as a good example. Like Sam Laporta and Jamar Gibbs are both jokers. Like they're very good receivers.
Yeah.
And they're just problems matchup wise in the passing game. And Detroit got him in the same draft. So that's sort of like the Joker thing. The bottom line is like Engram is what Sean considers a Joker, and he's going to get the ball a lot. Like there just is no doubt about it. It's not all going to be up the seam and down the sideline in the hole and all that, but like he's going to get the ball a ton underneath. He's going to have those, shot plays called for him where he's the primary. And he's just like each of the last 3 years that Engram's been healthy, he's either had 100 targets plus, or he's been on that, like he was on that pace last year before he got hurt. So like that's kind of what you're talking about. So for as much as you want to talk about like who's the second receiver behind Courtland Sutton, at the end of the year, the guy who's second in targets behind Courtland Sutton, like the odds-on favorite for that at this point would be Evan Engram. They're going to use him a ton.
Yeah. No, that's good. He's not going super early in drafts. I mean, kind of like I don't know, Mark Andrews ish range, maybe slightly later. So you can get him a little bit later, and yeah, without a lack of a true number two receiver, I feel like that's where like the tight end can thrive in an offense like that. And
Yeah,
so
I mean, I
and
think if he's healthy, he's going to catch 75 balls at
yeah,
least. That
yeah.
would
I
be
mean,
mention.
we saw it in Jacksonville. Like
Right.
they so many injuries to the receiving core, and Ingram thrived. Like that's when he shined. All right, so this is where I alluded to earlier. So, is there an under the radar player in this offense who could emerge as like a bigger contributor, someone fantasy managers kind of need to keep in their back pocket, maybe not go out and draft them right away, maybe use their last pick or something like that, but not really focusing on the fantasy part at this point. Just anybody you've noticed in camp that's sort of under the radar, not the big names. You threw out Vele last year, and man, that was a home run. That was awesome. A slam dunk pick. So looking forward to hearing what you got this year. No
Yeah,
pressure.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's sort of a similar situation, honestly, and we talked about him a little bit, but I think it's Pat Bryant. Like they just love him.
Okay.
They and the thing about it is like you just can't quite see from here what his role is going to be. Like he might just be a 10 snap a game guy at the beginning of the year, but he's a guy who like if the Broncos have an injury at receiver, or maybe just he keeps coming on, he's one of those guys that like you look up and at the end of the year you're gonna be like, huh, that guy has 35 catches, 40 catches. Wow, how did that happen? That's to me like he sort of feels like that. He hasn't made as many wow plays in camp as Vele made last year, but he's similar in the sense that like he's a rookie. He was a day 2 pick, actually not a day 3 pick, but like a lot of people had him pegged more as a day 3 guy, but the Broncos loved him. And so like he's just one of those guys that like he catches the ball, he's strong at the catch point. He's got a knack for in college, he had a knack for making plays in crunch time. And Bo Nix just seems to sort of find him quite a bit. So be interesting to see what he looks like in the preseason. If you want to go way down the list and stay at receiver, I mean, Trent Sherfield's a guy that has just not I think he had 30 catches in 22 in Miami, but he's primarily been a special teams guy and blocker, but he's a big physical receiver. And Joe Lombardi, the offensive coordinator, actually said yesterday that like earlier this week that like the ball just sort of finds him in practice. It has been so far. And so Sean Payton always has room for a guy who's physical at the point, like, blocking. And if that guy's going to, it's sort of like Lil Jordan Humphrey was this player for the Broncos last year. Like, if you're going to be on the field, if you're going to somehow, some way be on the field like 40 or 50% of snaps, like the ball's going to get to you eventually. And so Sherfield's kind of this like veteran guy, 5 teams in 5 years, the past 5 years, but like the ball just sort of keeps finding him. and he's going to be on the field because he's like a physical, impressive blocker. So those two guys, like Pat Bryant for actual like upside. And if you were like really hurting, then like Sherfield's a guy who's just like going to be involved in their offense. And if you're involved in the offense and you throw the ball a lot, the ball is going to come your way at some point.
Yeah. No, great. I'm glad to hear the Pat Bryant thing. I got a lot of flack in a dynasty rookie mock draft that we did for the site, and I was like, "Dude, Pat Bryant's no joke, man. This guy's legit. If they can find a way to use him, man, he's gonna be good." And I like to hear that. So, all right, man. Well, thank you for coming on. This is all great information as always with you. Go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, denverpost.com/Broncos. I'm on, what's it called? X, Parker J. Gabriel. And Blue Sky too, I guess, same thing. So yeah, we're on the social medias and all of our coverage, denverpost.com/Broncos.
Great stuff. Make sure you go ahead and follow him, get all that great information. And yep, that's it for us. We'll see you next time.